So the last time I changed my spark plugs, which was about 60,000 miles ago, I noticed some oil in there. So I ordered up the parts, and this time when I changed the spark plugs, I also changed what Subaru calls the spark plug tube seals, which are supposed to keep oil out of those spark plug wells. So I took some pictures and put together this little video here to try to help other people out. This video specifically is for the passenger side, and I'll be making a separate video for the driver's side, and I'll put a link in the description below. So here's the list of tools that I needed to use. You may need more, you may need less, but this is what I had to use. I'll let you look through the list here. Most importantly, I think, is you need to have as many different length extensions as you can, because you'll have to kind of keep on swapping extensions to see what fits. Because even though we will remove a lot of the air intake stuff so you get more room, you're still kind of limited. So extensions, extensions, extensions. So before we get started, let's just acknowledge that my car, the engine bay, is pretty dirty. I got a little over 230,000 miles on it. I'm not really too concerned with how the engine bay looks. So that is what it is. And I'm not a car expert. I'm not a certified mechanic. So I probably will say some names wrong, call something something that it ain't. But that's why I put these nice big yellow arrows. So you can just pretty much follow the arrows and you won't even have to really listen to what I say. So first step here is just popping out these two plastic clip retainers here, and then that first piece should just come up out of there. I should also note that some of these pictures were taken actually as I was reassembling, so sometimes you may see something in the picture that we actually just took out, but if you just kind of follow what I'm saying, it'll all end up making sense. So now we're gonna pop those two metal clips. We're gonna unplug that connector there, and then if you follow that connector wire, it's attached to a little plastic clip. If you squeeze the back of it with some pliers and push, it'll then pop it out. We can't yet take off that whole thing though, because we got to remove a couple things towards the back of the engine that you'll see in the next picture. So now we're going to move towards the back of the engine, so closest to the windshield. We're going to remove that plastic retainer. In the picture it's already out, but you'll have one there. Use your pliers to take that hose clamp, slide it back off, and then pull the hose off of the nipple that it's attached to, and then use a 8mm socket to loosen up that hose clamp and pull the hose off of the engine, and then now you should be able to lift up and remove that entire intake assembly there. Working our way back to the front of the engine here. The last piece of the air intake system we got to take out is this piece here. Just take out those three 10mm bolts, lift that up, and then you should have a pretty good access now to your spark plugs, as you can see. And yes, my engine is very dirty. We'll just want to remove this protective cover here. So take out these two 10mm bolts, and then the cover should just kind of pull out. It's kind of just clipped into the plastic up there, but it'll easily pull out. Next, we want to remove the two ignition coils. Those are 10mm bolts as well. Take those out, and then you can just pull the ignition coils straight out and kind of just lay them to the side somewhere. With the coils out now, you can see the dried up oil there, and if you look inside there more, you see a little more oil. So that's what I'm trying to prevent. I then went ahead and laid some shop towels kind of underneath the rocker cover. I covered up the exhaust because when you take the rocker cover off, some oil will come out, and I thought it was easier to have these towels soak it up now than have the oil fall onto exhaust or something else and then start smelling, smoking, or catch fire. Now there's a total of 8 10mm bolts that you need to take out in order to take the rocker cover off. I kind of show them in an actual picture here, and then here's the diagram where it kind of gives you a little better view of them. You can take all these out and the cover won't just fall off, so you don't got to worry about that. It'll be kind of tricky to reach all the bolts, so that's why I said having a lot of various sized extensions will help you. And then what also helped me reach the lower ones is, you can see in this picture here, I'm just trying to show you that I had to put my arm under that bar there in order to actually wrench on the 3 lowest bolts of the rocker cover. Now that we have all those 8 bolts out, you can start to pull the rocker cover off. I had to use a little flathead to kind of help pop it loose, and then when I did pull the cover off, the gasket remained on the engine side, which is no big deal. You can then just pull it off of there, and then for now just put the cover off to the side. Here are the tube seals that we'll be replacing. So just go ahead and you just kind of pull these off. Shouldn't be too hard. And then here's what it'll kind of look like now. At this point in this picture, I had not yet pulled the rocker cover gasket off, so you can still see it all around there. But if you had already pulled it off, that's fine. Totally doesn't matter. So now we can take the spark plugs out. It's up to you if you want to change your spark plugs or not. I figure since you're already in here, why not? So just use your 14mm deep well socket, unthread the spark plugs completely, and then pull them out. You may need to use the magnet to actually get the spark plug out of the well there. So once I had the spark plugs out, I just used a paper towel, shop towel, to just kind of clean out in here as good as I could. Here's just a picture showing the old spark plug next to a new one. Again, these have about, I want to say 60,000 miles on them. So then now we're going to put the new spark plugs in. So kind of same thing, except you're now threading them in. Some people use anti-seize a little bit on the threads. I never have, because the Subaru manual doesn't say to, so I'm not gonna. You want to torque those down though to 13.3 foot-pounds or 159.6 inch-pounds. The torque wrench I'm using here is a quarter drive. Because of the limited room, I think it may be a little hard to fit a 3/8, but if that's all you have, it may fit somehow. Then here you can see, here's the new spark plug in there, all torqued down. So now we can go ahead and put the new tube seals on. Subaru recommends kind of coating the ID of them with some new oil to help them slide on, and they have a shoulder on them, so once you slide them on, it'll kind of stop and you'll know it's on all the way. And now kind of moving to the rocker panel that we pulled off earlier. I just used some brake cleaner to first clean it as good as I could, and then I added some lines here of gasket maker in this picture. So here's kind of how much I added. I don't know. Some people don't use it at all. I only did because the Subaru manual says to. Here's what it shows. So I just kind of put it in those same locations that they had marked. Then I put the new gasket on there, pressed it on, made sure it was nice and snug, everything looked good. And then just pretty much put the rocker panel back on, and then tighten your 8 bolts. They need to be torqued to 4.7 foot-pounds or 56.4 inch-pounds. You do not want to over tighten these. I've heard from other people that they have snapped them when they tried to tighten them too much. And you should tighten them in this pattern here, so you kind of see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Put your ignition coils back in and torque those back down to 5.9 foot-pounds or 70.8 inch-pounds. Now you just got to reassemble all the air intake stuff in the reverse order that you took it off. So put this piece in first, secure it with the 3 10mm bolts, then put this large piece back on, pop those 2 metal clips back on, connect the connector, and pop that little plastic pin back in the hole. And then up in the back of the engine towards the windshield, put your little plastic fastener back in, put the hose back on the nipple with the hose clamp, and then also make sure to attach the air intake hose back onto the engine, and then tighten that hose clamp back up with your 8mm socket. Then finally put this piece back on with those 2 plastic fasteners, and then everything should be back together now. And then the last thing I did was I started the engine, and then you can kind of look down here just to kind of make sure you got all the seals and the gasket on correctly, and that no oil is leaking out of there. And you should be done.